So we're doing this only to put us in a space where we are being guided to do the right thing for our vai, for our people, for our aina, and I think it's important, for us to ground ourselves in this. So we're going to turn towards our Queen, Liliuokalani. Today is her brother's birthday, by the way, King Kalakaua. And so we celebrated his birthday today. So we're going to start. The Oli is on the agenda, so you can follow along. We're going to do it 3 times. It's very simple. And it's just calling for life, for spirit, and for vai to be renewed for Hawaii. Mahalo. Just to remind us why we're here. And I want to hand over the mic to our CEO of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, Stacy Ferreira.
Aloha mai kako. Aloha. Welcome to the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. We're so excited to have you here because the conversation, the discussions, the discourse that's going to happen this evening is so critical to the Hawaiian people, to our lahui. I want to thank Healani and Ilima for representing our Hawaiian people in this discussion. It's so critical that our voices be heard as we talk about the topics that are agendized this evening. Tonight, you folks are sitting in Liliuokalani Hall, which I think is very appropriate as you embark on these very important discussions. I wanted to share with you Liliuokalani's motto, and she says, "E oni pa'a I ka imi na uau," and it means be steadfast in the seeking of knowledge. And I think that's a very appropriate motto as you folks think about the work that needs to occur, not just tonight, but in discussions in the future. Vai is life, and vai is wealth, and we trust that those of you sitting around the table will make the best decisions for the state of Hawaii and for our people. So mahalo in advance for your good work, your good thinking, and I turn it back to Healani. Mahalo.
Mahalo nui. Thank you so much for this space and for supporting the work. So we're going to go next to introductions. And so we'll just start with the CRI introductions, since this is a CRI meeting, and we'll go down the row. And then we'll start with on this side of the table and go down this way. Okay, thank you. So we'll start with Susan.
Susan Gorman-Che from Eva Beach.
Aloha, Ilima DeCosta, Ko'olau Poko.
Aloha, Marty Townsend, Kalihi Valley.
And I'm Healani Sonora Pale. I live in Kuli'o'o.
Lacey Quintero, I'm representing Impacted Community.
Good evening, David Frankel with the Sierra Club.
Aloha, I'm Melody Aduha, Democratic Party of Hawaii Environmental Caucus.
Susan Picola Davis, substitute.
Kaimo Milstein, Moanalua Valley resident, substitute.
Mahalo. Thank you. So that's our 10-member CRI Community Initiative, Representation Initiative crew. So, and we're just going to hand it over to you. Oh, I'm sorry. Mandy, are you on the Zoom? Mandy? Okay. Thank you.
There she is.
Go ahead, Mandy. Can you introduce yourself?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
I can.
Okay, aloha. I'm Captain James Sullivan. I'm the commanding officer of Naval Facilities Engineering System Command, Hawaii.
Aloha, I am Captain Mark Williams. I am the Deputy Commander for Closure for Naval Closure Task Force, Red Hill.
Aloha, Carney Gohanesian with the Department of the Navy.
Hello, Amy Miller. I'm the Director of the Enforcement and Compliance Assurance Division at EPA Region 9.
Hens Che, my name is Laura Ebert. I'm an enrolled member of the Muskogee Nation of Oklahoma. For the United States Environmental Protection Agency, I am the Director of our Tribal Intergovernmental and Policy Division. My division includes our work with federally recognized tribes, indigenous peoples, the Pacific Islands, and work in communities with environmental justice concerns.
Aloha, Allison Fong. I'm the Assistant Director of the RCRA branch from EPA Region 9.
Aloha, I'm Eric Wiedemann with the Defense Logistics Agency, and I'm the team lead for the Red Hill support team.
Aloha, Jamie Marinkla with US EPA and our enforcement program, and I oversee the 2023 consent order.
Maybe we can pass it to Dominique. Is there anyone else we need to introduce?
Aloha, everyone. My name is Dominique Smith. I'm the Environmental Justice Coordinator for Red Hill for EPA Region 9 and the Zoom support today.
Thank you. Okay, so, and Mandy's on, I think. Mandy, are you on?
I am. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Perfect. Mandy Pint, happy to be here, joining you live from Colorado, representing the impacted families. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we have some announcements, and it's on a sheet of paper that should have been in the check-in. I'll just grab it here. So there's some announcements on this paper for the public. It has information on where to go for more information on the CRI, as well as information on where to get help if you experience increased contamination in your water. And those are numbers and information you can take with you. So wanted to just share that. Make sure you take it, and if you want to take some extras to take home to give to your neighbors, please do so. Thank you. Next, we will start with the defueling update from the Navy. And who is doing that presentation? Okay. So who will be answering questions if people have questions about the defueling? On behalf of the Navy, is that you?
Navy is not in charge of the defueling.
So
JTF is. The JTF is in charge of defueling.
Oh, okay. So who will be answering questions from JTF tonight?
We can provide EPA's observations if there's anything specific from that EPA can provide.
What we all took time out of our precious, schedules to be here. It's very disconcerting that JTF isn't here. But go ahead with the video.
renewable fuel storage facility. Our last community update was in early October. At that time, I explained that my team and I were conducting final preparations, which included reviews of our procedures, rehearsals, and safety.
Did it cause an echo when you put a microphone by the laptop?
Yeah.
Okay,
Maybe we
fix
don't
that.
put a microphone.
Go.
Yeah, but
maybe
that's-
try that again.
Can I send you the link on your side? And can you all hear it, even if it's just playing from the lap? No, not really. Okay. Yeah.
Try and hold the microphone to it again.
How about a
Yeah.
Can we screen share? We can't do screen share. I promise, technology is here to save us.
Maybe we should skip this and do something more productive. Especially if no one's going to be here to answer questions. Why don't we
Yeah.
just
Maybe,
move ahead?
what is the next on the agenda? We should do that.
The transition.
All right, you guys want to talk about that first?
Transition.
All right, well, we are figuring out, yeah. There you go.
Okay. Yeah, can I have that? Testing. Oh, here, give her the mic.
That's okay, they might know. As the radars has shown that defueling has been leveling down, can anyone say as to what is the percentage as where it stands right now as to how much has been defueling? As a person living in the neighborhood and very close to the fuel tanks, it seems that it has been moving, but I'm not too sure or no word as I can tell of what is the percentage and how close it is to coming to a end of the absolute defueling process. Can anyone answer that?
So I can answer. I'm not part of the JTF, but I do know they went over 100 million gallons today that has been defueled, which is almost 90. It's 98.5% or so of the fuel has been removed.
Is there an anticipated date as to when that task will be concluded?
So the gravity fueling, they are slated to finish middle of December, and then there is residual fuel that will be removed over the course of a combination of the transition phase between the Joint Task Force and the Navy Closure Task Force, which I represent. And that is about 60,000 gallons that will be removed there. There's another 4,000 gallons that will take time to get after because it's in low points in the line, so it will require essentially the removal of the pipeline. So that will take, that 4,000 gallons is going to take a couple of years to get after. And then the 28,000 gallons of sludge will be the priority in the tank cleaning. And so we are going through the planning process to determine how to properly remove the sludge, clean the tanks, and so forth. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Can you give us a time frame for the sludge? How long will it take?
The estimate is about 6 months per tank. Now we're going to do 2 tanks at a time. So again, that's the estimate at this time. That I would write that in pencil, not in pen. So our goal is to go faster, but we are not going to sacrifice safety or environmental protection just for the sake of expediency.
So the sludge is going to take years, and the 4,000 gallons, the low point is also going to take a couple of years.
Correct. The same environmental protection measures that are in place today that the JTF has put in will remain. So the secondary, tertiary, right, all of that will remain in place, but there is a very methodical process, right, to get after this fuel. It is not in easy spots.
So is the Navy going to proclaim success in defueling before the 4,000 gallons of remnant and all the sludge is taken out?
Yeah.
I do not want the Navy saying defueling is done before all the fuel is actually done.
So the Navy's not saying defueling is complete.
Okay.
Good.
So Vice Admiral Wade just texted me, very, very adamant. He wants to make sure the video is played. It includes all of his updates, and I believe that you guys are ready for the video.
So if he's adamant and texting you, he can answer questions we have, if he's that available.
Yeah, can you come on the Zoom?
Let's play the video.
Yeah, let's play the video first and see what that is.
I do not know.
Can't anticipate what he's going to say.
We talked yesterday.
So did I,
Hello. Vice Admiral John Wade here, Commander of Joint Task Force Red Hill. I wanted to provide the community a progress update on our efforts to defuel the Red Hill bulk fuel storage facility. My last community update was in early October. And at that time, I explained that my team and I were conducting final preparations, which included reviews of our procedures, rehearsals, and safety checks. We're also working to obtain final regulatory approvals to commence our defueling operations. We received these approvals on the 12th of October, and before we started, we held a blessing at Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam with many government, Department of Defense, and select community members in attendance. And the purpose was to give my team and all those involved the strength, focus, confidence, and peace of mind to execute our operations safely. On Monday, 16 October, early in the morning, we went through all of our operations briefs, then conducted deliberate and methodical safety walkthroughs to ensure all conditions were set to commence. And once everything was confirmed ready to go, my Deputy Commander, Brigadier General Michelle Lynn, and Fuels Directorate Lead, Captain Sean Triggs, called me requesting permission to start.
Sir, we are calling to request permission to commence defueling.
Team, you have permission to commence defueling the Red Hill Bulk Fuel Storage Facility. Please log time now, 0901, 16 October for historical purposes. Michelle and Sean, I want you to execute with exacting precision, 100% procedural compliance.
Yes, sir.
Now a month into our defueling efforts, and as of this morning, we have safely removed a little over 100 million gallons, over 96%. And by this Saturday, 18 November, when we conclude the first stage of gravity defueling, we'll remove a little over 102 million gallons, or 98.5% of fuel from the facility. A small amount of this fuel has been drained to the above-ground storage tanks at Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam to support training and operations. But the majority of the fuel is being relocated in partnership with United States Indo-Pacific Command, United States Transportation Command, and the Defense Logistics Agency to other fuel storage locations, including Island Energy Services here in Hawaii, in San Diego, Philippines, and Singapore. Let's briefly talk about safety. As I've told you before, my team and I take safety of personnel very seriously. Our people are our most important resource and critical to mission success. I can understand and appreciate the concerns from the community, especially given what happened in 2021. Just days before defueling commenced, it was reported heavily in the media that the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, otherwise known as OSHA, was investigating a complaint from a concerned citizen regarding the number of exits in the facility, egress procedures in case of an emergency, and sufficiency of firefighting training. My team and I fully cooperated with OSHA. We answered all their questions, and we even met with them at the Red Hill facility to highlight the extensive safety practices and programs that have been implemented, such as emergency evacuation routes and what we practice, personnel protective equipment, emergency breathing devices, and our firefighting plan with Fed Fire. I want you all to know that we share OSHA's goal to reduce risk to the maximum extent practical and to ensure the safety of all our personnel. And to this end, my team and I will continue to work with OSHA to answer any additional questions or inquiries they may have. With this said, I'd like to now discuss how things are going operationally from a safety perspective. The bottom line, things are going very well. I'm extremely pleased thus far, not only in the performance of my team, but also the material condition of the equipment and facility. We've had no injuries to our personnel. And equally important, we've had no spills or fires. And lastly, we've had no serious incidents that could impact the health of our team or the community or impact the environment in Acton. And in the month of near continuous operations, we've had only 2 minor incidents. Both were small leaks from valves, roughly 3 gallons total, that were immediately identified by my team, corrected on the spot, and resulted in no release to the environment. Each were promptly addressed in accordance with the prior planning and response processes that we had in place and in coordination with the Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, and Hawaii Department of Health, DOH, who were present and on scene during both incidents. The first leak occurred on October 16th at a valve in the underground pump house on Joint Base Pearl Harbor, Hickman, as we were conducting our startup procedures with increased pressures. Approximately 1 gallon was captured in pre-positioned containment and disposed of properly. The second leak occurred on October 26th at a valve in a low point drain just outside the underground pump house while we were defueling. And in this case, approximately 2 gallons were captured in pre-positioned secondary containment and disposed of properly. Small leaks like these were not unexpected, especially in a facility of this size, and we were fully prepared to address. Again, there was no release to the environment, and at no time was there a threat to Red Hill personnel, the community, the aquifer, or drinking water. Please know, my team and I are absolutely committed to the safe defueling of Red Hill, and we will immediately report to the public if there is any incident that has the potential to endanger our personnel, the community, or the environment. So let's talk about what's next for our defueling effort. As I mentioned, this Saturday, November 18th, we will conclude the first stage of gravity defueling by removing fuel from all the storage tanks down to the 7-foot levels. The next stage will be conducted in early December, after the Thanksgiving holiday, where we will drain the fuel at the bottom of each tank. This portion of fuel is referred to as the tank bottoms. Then, after the Christmas holiday, and in January, we will complete gravity defueling by removing the fuel from the pipelines. And this is called unpacking. My team and I assess that we're slightly ahead of schedule and have initiated discussions with the EPA and the DOH to possibly accelerate the gravity defueling timeline where possible. We'll review this methodically and deliberately, and I expect to know more towards the end of November, and we'll keep the community informed. Once gravity defueling is complete, right now planned for January 19th, or could be a little bit earlier, just like I mentioned, 99.9% of the fuel in Red Hill will have been removed. But there still will be what's called residual fuel. And this is fuel that can't be removed by gravity. This fuel will remain in low point drains or bends and sags in the pipeline. And the total amount of residual fuel is estimated to be approximately 64,000 gallons. And this is determined after doing detailed surveys and engineering analysis. This past Tuesday, November 14th, the Department of Defense released defueling supplement number 3 to the Red Hill defueling plan. And this supplement provides the actions and key milestones for removing this fuel. It also defines the distinction between defueling tasks and closure tasks. Our analysis shows that 60,000 of the 64,000 gallons can be removed without disabling the pipelines and in approximately 2 months. This means we can remove the fuel by opening each of the low point drains and letting fuel out and collect it, similar to draining oil out of a car engine when changing its oil. Or we'll open up vent valves that are located at various points on the top of the pipeline and drop in a small hose and slowly pump it out. The remaining 4,000 gallons, however, can only be accessed by physically altering the pipelines, meaning the pipeline would have to be cut into or valves physically removed to gain access to the pockets of fuel. And this will be a much lengthier process, given the sequencing of cleaning of the tanks, the removal of sludge, and also the removal of pipelines, combined with stringent regulatory rules. So, the plan is for Joint Task Force Red Hill to commence removing the 60,000 gallons of residual fuel in January 2024. And concurrently, a new Navy task force called Navy Closure Task Force Red Hill will be stood up, and then this will then start a transition period during which JTF Red Hill will conduct a deliberate turnover with this new task force so they can learn our processes, everything that we've done for safety, security, and also community engagement. This turnover will continue until Joint Task Force Red Hill completes the removal of the 60,000 gallons, which is projected to be completed by the end of March 2024. And at that point, the Navy Closure Task Force will assume full responsibility for Red Hill, including centralized control for all activities and the completion of the residual fuel removal, the removal of sludge in the bottoms of the tanks, the cleaning of the tanks, and the removal of the pipelines. The commander of the Navy Closure Task Force Red Hill will be Admiral Steve Barnett, who is also Navy Region Hawaii Commander. In the weeks ahead, both he and I will conduct engagements with the community, elected officials, and the media to provide more details regarding this transition. Let me conclude by saying that over the past year, my team and I, in honest, good faith, have done our very best to engage with the community and military families, not just to communicate what we were doing and why, but to also listen. Well, some of what was said has sometimes been difficult to listen to. We understand why, and we needed to hear it. It's helped us to better understand your concerns. It's given us greater purpose and meaning for what you're doing. And quite frankly, and I mean this with all sincerity, it's driven us to check, recheck, and triple check everything that we're doing. In essence, it's made us safer. For this feedback, I want you to know my team and I are incredibly grateful. Now, we're not done yet. There's still much more to do. But my team and I remain absolutely committed to executing our mission safely and expeditiously, and will remain hyper-vigilant as we do so. Thank you so much for your continued support and your prayers, and we'll continue to keep you updated moving forward. Thank you.
Well, he memorized that well.
Okay, so I just want to say something that, we came here in good faith to have a discussion, and having a commercial shown to us tonight was,
Insulting.
it's insulting, because if you really care about the community, he would have been here. And I want to say I'm very disappointed in Admiral Wade. That's all I want to say moving forward. But did you want to say something?
Yes, Admiral Wade relays that he's actively leading defueling right now, while Brigadier General Link is off island. And so the Navy will collect all JTF questions tonight, and then I'll pass it on to Indo-PACOM and then JTF. We'll get our notes out and we'll collect the questions for JTF.
I just have a follow-up to these questions. Yeah. Okay, so basically you're saying that this could have been an email. Like we could have just emailed all of our questions and we didn't have to all come here and go like this.
So how many people have this app where it shows like a tank and the defueling, yeah? So it does say on here, gravity defueling tracker. So I'm a little concerned that this will lead an unrealistic expectation or an unrealistic reality when this goes down to zero, and most of the public will think, yay, we're done, all the gravity, gravity defueling done. Whereas it really shouldn't be down to zero until the ending 4,000 are down. So are you going to revise this or create another one like this so people know, the public knows, that all the fuel is not gone?
So we will have a similar tracking mechanism. That is the Joint Task Force. I can't speak to what they're going to do, if they're going to hit it to zero, whatever that final number is. I can't tell you. We will have a similar transparency that shows the residual fuel, the sludge, et cetera, where we are with it, what the status is of removal, and what the status is of cleaning the tanks.
And it will look like this so that the public can understand.
I can't speak to what the final product's going to look like, but again, different closure task force, right? It's going to be transparent of, hey, here's how much it is and how far down it is.
But this is a visual that is going to be very misleading.
It's on. It's on. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So we're gonna. Do we want to have this discussion now, or we want to wait to the end, or?
I want to add to it.
Okay.
Stacy wanted to say something. Oh, go ahead.
Quick comment. At no time was there a threat to the community. I just wanted to correct that statement because the entire time the community was under threat. And I'll save my comments for the next section about the current threat to the impacted community.
So this is more a comment for EPA as you consider Supplement 3, which I believe you should reject, because what the Navy or JTF is attempting to do is use Orwellian language to suggest that defueling tasks should now be called closure tasks. If there is residual fuel, whether it's sludge or more fluid fuel in low points, that the facility has not been defueled. Defueling is not complete until every drop of fuel is gone. If the Navy wants to, or the Department of Defense wants to transition one bureaucratic entity to another, I don't have any comment about that, but it is inappropriate to do what Admiral Wade just talked about, is redefine defueling tasks. A defueling task is a defueling task is a defueling task. And it is not complete until all the fuel is gone. Thank you.
Did in that Joint Task Force covenant or the job to get it done, did that defueling only cover the gravity form, or did it include also the sludge remains? So if they're going to make a transition, it appears that it's, I don't know how it's going to transition, but I'm hoping that will be a smooth transition, because gravity is one thing and it took out the majority, but there is still concerned leftovers via the sludge that remains in there, and that's still a lot for me to be sleeping right next to that sludge.
I'm recusing myself.
Why? Okay. That's fine. Did you want to answer that, Carnegie? No. That was the EPA.
I'm sorry. Your statement about the concern of, about the sludge.
Well, the gravity.
Yes.
Is one method, and then the method for the unloading of the sludge.
Yes.
Which they're talking about a transition from Wade to that other admiral.
As David had just stated, we just received supplement 3, and we're going to be reviewing that. And as part of our process, we look at the plan, and you know, we may go back with comments, questions, and also before they start to implement it, we will do walkthroughs, and of course, we're going to be there on site as they're implementing it. We are aware of the various phases that are still, that we are aware of the various defueling stages that are still necessary to be done.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to go on to the next agenda item for now. We will have time at the end for questions. Did you have anything? Okay, great. So just if everyone can put the mic up so the Zoom participants can hear. And we will move on to the next item on our agenda, which is the transition from JTF to closure. And that's the presentation, and they're here in person. Thank you for being here in person. And I just a couple of housekeeping things. Restrooms are outside the door on the, if you walk out, you take a left, and you have to go on the right side of the stage. It's around that corner there. See, if you need the code, one of the staff can help you with the codes. Wi-Fi is the OHA guest, and welcome to OHA is the password. And then there's also food on the side, and if you have Kiki that want to color, we have a coloring table in the room next door. So just housekeeping items. Moving on to transition from JTF to closure presentation. Oh, you got one.
I got one. Thank you, and I want to apologize ahead of time. Admiral Barnett intended to be here, and he was called at the last minute to speak with Admiral Paparo. And I had handouts, but his aide, Lieutenant Hodges, has the handouts with her, so we will get those to you electronically as she had the entire set of printouts. So I'm going to apologize because we don't have it on the screen, and I'm gonna be using it for briefings, and you're not going to have it in front of you, so I want to apologize in advance. So, as stated by Admiral Wade, Navy Closure Task Force Red Hill has SecDef approval to be stood up. We're going through the process to do so, and our mission is singularly focused on the safe and expeditiously execute the permanent closure of Red Hill bulk fuel storage facility and continue long-term environmental remediation and aquifer restoration efforts in coordination with state and federal stakeholders in order to protect public health and environment. That is our mission statement. How we are going to operate is in a very sequenced and layered approach. We are going to mimic and model ourselves after what the JTF has done. Think of it as plagiarism is the highest form of flattery. They've demonstrated operational excellence, superior safety, environmental protection practices, and so forth. We will maintain and intend to adopt all those high standards. And we plan to continue the community partnership through actions in open communication and transparency. Realize that closure is a very complicated and multi-layered event. As Amy commented on about it's to get after the remaining fuel that will remain in the pipelines is a very deliberate and lengthy process. While we have done clean, inspect, and repair contracts in the past, and we know, generally speaking, how long that will take, the getting after the fuel in the line is a different beast, and one we will be very deliberate and safe in executing against. And all of this, again, will be done in conjunction with all of our regulatory agencies seeking their approval. We will follow the same processes with CONOPS, OPORDS, et cetera, and with DOH and EPA's approval before any evolution occurs. And again, from a long-term standpoint, we recognize, right, the continued need to be transparent with regards to what's going on, and then the long-term environmental remediation and continued emphasis on safe drinking water. What you will see in near term, and there's a lot of planning underway, and that's focused predominantly on the sludge removal and cleaning the tanks. removal of all hazardous materials and substances, pipeline removal, and then looking at the facility infrastructure that needs to be removed, and some of which may need to be repaired or maintained to enable that long-term environmental monitoring and remediation. We will have a site assessment work plan that is underway now. We expect that will be delivered in June time period, and that will help guide us on next steps with regards to the environmental monitoring and remediation. And then there is additional, a brief to Congress in February of 2024 that is a summary of 3 beneficial non-fuel reuse plans or studies. One is the Nakapuna study, which the Department of Health requested. One is the University of Hawaii study, which is the Office of the Naval Research Grant, and then the RAND study, which is a congressional requirement for the DoD to look at non-fuel use. The big thing I want to talk about is with regards to the transition planning. We have been working with the JTF in earnest, and we are following a very deliberate and methodical, what you will hear us in military terms, we'll call it left seat, right seat. And I apologize if that's confusing, but it essentially is somebody's in the driver's seat, somebody's in the passenger seat. And what we are focusing on is maintaining high quality standards, environmental protection, operational excellence, and safety standards and protocols that the JTF has established, that they remain fully in place post-transition. The next big event for the Navy Closure Task Force as we stand up, and we are in our infancy now, so we are a mighty few at this point with regards to personnel, but we will be conducting a detailed and deliberate planning session in order to conduct what we call a traceability assessment. From there, and this will be done in conjunction with the JTF, they're actually going to guide us through it. It'll be a combined workshop that we are holding the week after Thanksgiving, and it's going to capitalize on the knowledge that they've gained and assist us in developing what we call our closure integrated master plan, and as well as our closure integrated master schedule. These 2 documents will be central to determining our work breakdown structure, the synchronization of work efforts, all the key milestones, et cetera, for all closure activities. And this, coupled with our ongoing iterative development of our tank closure plan, that includes feedback and guidance from DOH, which we received yesterday. EPA, we expect to receive next week, as our oversight partners will enable a robust and thorough closure plan that will be shared as it's developed. I'll stand by for questions from there.
Thank you. Okay, question? Okay.
Mahalo. I appreciate that information that you provided, Captain Williams. I think my initial question is closure a term that's generally used in the defueling process, or is this something that the Navy has actually developed themselves? Because I'm just wondering why we're using different language if it's all part of the defueling process.
Actually, closure is actually a regulatory term. And it's under the underground storage tank regulations, Hawaii administrative rules. So this is the terminology that is in the regulation, and we're using it because that is the legal terminology.
Thank you, Lima. Yes. Okay, Mandy has a question. She's one of the members on the CRI. She's on Zoom. She had a coughing fit. There you go.
Hey, just a quick comment. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
I don't know who the last briefer was, but just a comment moving forward. When you're briefing the public, mostly as civilians, can you please not use like off-border, con-op? Can you tell everyone what that terminology means? Thank you.
Got it. Thank you, Mandy. That's actually helpful for us. Any other questions from the CRI about the closure or the transition to the closure?
Will there be open houses like how you had before, so that we can access to these open houses presentation?
Can you repeat your question?
Can I request for open houses,
Yes.
like we had in the past?
Yes.
Keep us educated and updated with your progress.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
My question is, I know I think it was Admiral Wade yesterday, talked about they will continue to reach out to the community, including neighborhood boards. Do you plan to do that during this process? Yes. So my request there is, the gentlemen that come out, they do the best they can, but it seems like they're pretty much given a script and they don't have a lot of depth of knowledge about what is going on. And so when people ask them a question, they really don't know or can't deviate from their script. Is there going to be some sort of training you can give them so that, they can answer questions?
I'll take that, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Did you want to speak in the mic?
Sure, yeah, if you want. Yeah, just to summarize, you want folks who have, substantive, be able to provide substantive answers, and we'll take that for action.
Thank you. Oh, and then Melody? This is a better mic.
Thank you. I believe at the first CRI, it was Brigadier General Lance Okamura who would be visiting the neighborhood boards. Will he also still be the contact person now with the new closure task force, or will that person change? Because as it is, he was not going to the neighborhood boards. And hopefully now that he will, if he's still with this new task force.
That's a good question. Thank you.
He will. Now, his mission will be complete as part of the joint task force, and we are working on building our community engagement cell, and those again, as part of the left seat, right seat, the team will work with his team to make sure that there's a seamless transition.
Okay, thank you. Ilima has a follow-up question.
Kalamai, I just wanted to get some additional information regarding the regulatory term. Can you be more specific about that? Like, where is it held in the EPA? Is this regulatory term held with the Department of the Navy? Because I'm looking it up right now, and right now, closure only comes up with regard to Red Hill. I can't find it with regard to any other defueling processes. So, is this something new or something old?
It's not something new. It's in the Hawaii Administrative Rules, and I don't remember the exact chapter and section, but we can get you that. And it's the underground storage tank rules. And there are lots of different parts to the rules. Some of them are about operating a tank, but some of them are about closing an underground storage tank. Hawaii Administrative Rules. However, their authority, and EPA can help here too, they have this authority as delegated by EPA under RCRA, right?
I'd like to phone a friend to come up, Dusty Miner. I could spend here looking at these pages.
Hi, I'm Dustin Miner. I'm an attorney with EPA, and as Carnegie was saying there, the Hawaii regulations are approved by EPA, and they're really based upon our regulations. And I see Amy has her copy. I was just trying to pull mine up on the computer before I got called up here, but there's a definition section in the regulations that defines closure. And that's a defined term, and we actually refer in our order to closure pursuant to the Hawaii regs, which does require permanent closure of the tanks. It is a little bit, Red Hill is unique in that, I mean, most of the tanks that are closed are like your typical gas stations. They're much smaller, but it's the same thing. And then there's a separate part of closure, which is if you have any contamination, and here, since we know there has been historical releases, the second part of closure requires a site investigation and cleanup of any releases. And so, it is a little bit confusing because that is the environmental remediation and assessment, but it's also part of a closure under the Hawaii regs and our 2023 consent order. And our order, we actually broke it up into 2 phases, phase 1 and phase 2. And the phase 1 closure is basically completely emptying the tanks and cleaning them out. And that is also defined in Hawaii's regulations as a specific provision. And if Amy actually hands me the document there, when we're done, I could refer to those provisions and give you the citations. But there's actually very few citations in the consent order, and so it actually refers to that. It's 280 point.
We didn't mean for this to be a test.
Yeah, no. So that's basically it, and I'll pull up the number in a second. So it's not something that's made up for Red Hill. It's much more complicated for Red Hill because it's so much larger.
And it's not an ABI.
It's not an AB term. It's an EPA term that is used in the federal regs that was adopted in the state regs and approved by EPA as part of the state's approval of the program.
Dusty, when you find it, maybe you can hand them the document too, and they can look for it.
Yes.
Hold on, we'll look it up. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If there are any more questions, we're going to just move on to the agenda. Yeah, you have a question, Melody? Okay, great.
Oh, yeah, just really quick. Thank you, Chair. So we have January 19th, we'll have 99% of the fuel removed, defueled. Is that, and then there's also a date of March 2024 where I guess a 64,000 residual fuel will be removed. At what point in time does this new Navy closure of tanks task force start?
So our advanced team is here in or what we call our initial operations capability, which is the critical folks with technical capabilities and insights and oversight will be here. Will be established 15 January in order for us to conduct the left seat, right seat with Joint Task Force. And then we will be full operational capability on 31 March 2024. So at the end of the left seat, right seat period is when we reach full operational capability. And then the JTF, as part of the process, they then stand down, and the Navy Closure Task Force takes full responsibility for Red Hill.
Thank you.
Follow up?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, just want to follow up with that, because I've already made arrangements for the, would have been Lance Okamura, to address the Makakilo Kapolei Neighborhood Board, which is where Campbell Industrial Park sits. It's their backyard. And so if it's not going to be Lance, then, since what you're saying, January 15th, you're going to start transitioning. So who will be the spokesperson, since arrangements are already being made for that person to address the neighborhood board? And we don't want Victor. That is who, that's who Susan is referring to, Victor, a nice guy. But yeah, he's full on script. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I'll take the question back to the JTF, sorry.
Ma'am, I'd like to apologize. Just got here, my boss. Everybody's got a boss, so I just ran right down here afterwards. So excuse me and sorry for being late. Catch your breath.
Okay, I have a question.
So, when is the board?
Oh, the board, we got a response January 26th.
Brigadier Nakamura will still be here. So when we start our left seat, the JTF is still here fully, right? And they still have maintained, right? They are the mission commander, that they have full control over Red Hill, full the Red Hill facility. It's not until we get full operational capability. So that left seat, right seat period, you'll have two entities, right, conducting turnover. So if it's in January, then we'll take that question back, but he'll be here. He'll be on island. Correct.
Will be on my phone.
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Excuse me. I haven't seen your face before. So could you please tell me who you are and what role that you play inside of this whole...
Let me introduce him.
Not you.
No, I'm going to introduce him because I'm his boss.
Well, you gonna make sure that he doesn't say something wrong?
No. I just want to.
Okay.
This is Admiral Select Mark Williamson. He's a engineer by trade. He's a combat-proven engineer. He's been in combat. He will be my he will be my version of Admiral Wade has General Link. He is my that's my counterpart here. So he is my engineering expertise, and my guidance on that. So anything I'll let you introduce.
How long has he been here?
I have been here about a month and a half now.
Okay, so we're gonna call you Green.
Okay, new guy works too.
Okay, and thank you, Admiral Barnett, for making it.
Okay, great. Don't need to turn it on. Great, thank you. I have just some questions about the defueling, about where it's being stored on island. I know it's in Campbell Industrial Park. How many gallons are being stored there right now? How long will it be there? And were the neighborhoods around that area notified that there would be, this huge, amount of fuel in their neighborhood? That's my question.
Hi, ma'am. There's approximately 30 million gallons was moved from Red Hill out to IES. And it will be there for the foreseeable future to support any missions at Hickam or at Joint Base Pearl Harbor, Hickam. The other fuel was moved to Subic and to San Diego.
Did you inform the community there?
Ma'am, I'll go back and double check. I know that it was a lengthy process to get the contract with the, or contracts put out publicly, looking for people to provide input and see if they were interested in providing storage. So all of that is public. I'll have to double check whether there was some type of other information put out. But it's generally, when it goes out for solicitation, it's a public announcement.
Yeah, and I know that the nearest school is about 3 miles away from where this fuel is being stored. The tanks were built in 10 months when it usually takes about 2 years, according to the article I read. But I wanted to just make sure that, has the school been notified that the fuel is being stored there and how much fuel is there? It's in close proximity.
It is, ma'am, I have to double check about notifications. I know about the contracting and solicitations and things along those lines and the quantities, but if there is any additional information put out, I'll have to double check and I'll get back with you.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Excuse me, I have a follow-up to dealing, sir. So my impression was that the fuel was being stored at IES temporarily, but you were saying it's going to be there for the foreseeable future. Does this mean that this is where the military's fuel reserves will be stored on Oahu going forward? Like when fuel is spent down, will you fill it back up there?
So we generally respond to requirements from the military services and the combatant commands, and depending upon where they indicate that they're going to need fuel stored in the future, that's how we allocate fuel to different places. That's how we determined whether someone was going to go to the West Coast or someone was going to go to the Philippines or someone was going to stay here. So when I say foreseeable future, that doesn't mean indefinitely. It's definitely dependent upon the requirements that the services and INDOPACOM provide to us.
Okay, so just to make sure I'm understanding you correctly, if the military says they need fuel in the Hawaiian Islands, that is where it will be stored at IES?
that is our current plan.
Okay,
That's
thank you very much.
Susan?
Yes, so the news reported there'll be some flares there for the next few days. Who is it that regulates the flares? I know other states have really strict regulation on when, such as a refinery, South Coast AQMD in California, they have really strict regulations. Who is the regulator for when they flare, and are there volatile organic compounds coming out of that flare?
I would have to contact the IES or the organization out there, so it's part of their normal business operations and how they conduct businesses. I'd have to contact them, but it was part of normal operations.
Right, but are they regulated by someone?
Ma'am, to the best of my knowledge, they are regulated. They're a commercial company that's been operating here.
They are?
Yes.
Okay, we'll get back to us. Thank you.
Thank you. So Mandy has a question. She's on the Zoom, so we will tune in there.
Thank you, Lonnie. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I just have some admin questions just for full transparency for the public who's just been made aware of this. This week we were told, everyone stand down. There's going to be this humongous announcement coming from DOD or Navy, right? And the big fat news was that Admiral Barnett was taking over this task force closure, which, I think we were all scratching our head because that's been briefed this entire time. So I'm not tracking why that is a big deal. But I do, I have legitimate questions about what this means. So Admiral Wade received a promotion and another star because he took over as a task force commander. He's been in that job for 1 year, right? And so most assignments are clearly more than 1 year. This is a very important issue. We're talking about continuity, and we're doing a massive change of command in the middle of this defueling, which is we're not even finished with defueling. This guy's he's coming out of command. So I'm just confused why that is happening now. You have a bunch of new folks coming in the middle of a massive mission, critical to the environment, to people's lives. So I guess my question is, someone mentioned this guy is an Admiral Select, awesome. How many promotions are coming out of this? For full transparency, Admiral Barnett, are you getting another star out of this? And is there a new patch coming out of this? Will there be new rules applied to you all? Can you fight Admiral Barnett for your people to get hazardous duty pay, since that was not fought for by Admiral Wade for his people? So I just have a bunch of admin questions that I'd love just to see if we could get those answered, because I just don't really understand why we're doing a change of command. This is so important, and again, most commanders stay in the position for longer than 1 year. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I was selected for promotion way before this situation happened. There's some things going on of why the promotion, has not happened yet. But I was selected for promotion not in conjunction with this, with the Navy Closure Task Force. I will be here. I've been extended. So there will be some continuity here. One of the other things I'd like to say is that for my Navy Closure Task Force, it's primarily, there's a uniform cadre of folks there, but the preponderance of the folks are the civilian side of the house. Those are the folks that are the continuity. But I would tell you that you're going to be stuck with these two individuals right here for quite a while, actually in this individual too. So if you have any more administrative questions, please let us know and we will get back to them.
Does that mean General Brigadier Link?
Can you use the microphone? Where's the other one?
Does that mean with the good work from Brigadier General Link, are you the replacement, sir?
He is the replacement for General Link.
Oh boy.
I'm the first house of the Moana Loa Valley. Come see me.
Yes, we need it. I'll explain later.
We're in trouble.
We are dedicated to this. And that's one thing that I wanted to stress to everybody here, that we are dedicated to this. I do not take this lightly. I do not.
You do not. You take it very seriously.
You know, I take it seriously. You know, I wake up thinking about this. I go to sleep thinking about this and doing right.
And I look at that mountain every morning
Yes, ma'am. We'll come see you. Yes, ma'am.
Can I ask? Wait for a moment, Mandy. Okay. Okay, Mandy has a follow-up. She's on Zoom. Go ahead, Mandy.
How many people are on the task force now, green suiters, military personnel? And how many of those people will transition to task force closure or whatever it is that you guys are calling this task force?
Hey, Major, thanks for the question. So I don't know the exact numbers for the JTF. It's around 275 folks. With regards to the Navy,
which JTF, sir?
for the Joint Task Force Red Hill. So for Navy Closure Task Force Red Hill, we have taken the tact again so that we can ensure from an enduring institutional knowledge in continued sort of stewardship that the Navy Closure Task Force will be predominantly permanent civilian hires. So it'll only be about 32 military, and the rest of the 191 will be 120 or so civilian permanent hires with about 45 contractors filling roles like rovers, fire watch, et cetera.
Okay, so these 120 hires, I think that's what you said, new hires. So have they been working on Red Hill? Do they know anything about Red Hill? These new hires that you're talking about?
A number of the folks that are being hired into the Navy Closure Task Force have experience with Red Hill and experience here in Hawaii, and specifically experience with currently Navy Region Hawaii.
Thank you.
And the transition question from the Joint Task Force over, so there'll be, we're finalizing some numbers, but there will be at least 15, probably not to exceed 20 individuals who will bring specific, they're all Navy individuals that will come over from the Joint Task Force and bring specific technical knowledge to, and again, ensure we have, clean continuity between the two entities. They will come over upon mission completion. They will then, one day belong to the Joint Task Force, and then the next day they will belong to the Navy Closure Task Force.
Thank you. Oh, Irima has a question.
So we just heard mission completion. So are you saying that you're considering the mission to be complete when the transition occurs?
That is not our, so again, that is the Joint Task Force. They will be considered mission complete, and they will stand down, and the Navy Closure Task Force will take ownership.
Okay, so it sounds like there's some language that's being kind of manipulated here, to be frank. Even using the term closure versus defueling. Yes, HRS 342L does include the term closure. It doesn't include the term defueling, though. So if we're going to use a phrase, let's use the same phrase all along. Let's use defueling all along, or use closure all along, because people need to know what is complete versus what is not complete. And using and creating this scenario where you have two phases, a defueling phase, which is not part of 342L, and the closure phase, they're actually the same thing. So let's not use two different terms to describe the same activities. That's my concern, because I think that the public, as Susan pointed out, the public is going to become confused, and because you're not going to have a tracker on your activities, I think that we would feel a lot more comfortable if everybody used the same language for the same activity. Instead of using two different terms, defueling and closure, let's just pick one of those terms to use. And since closure is actually part of the 342, HRS 342L-37, that would be more appropriate than defueling. But I think the public does need to be educated that closure includes defueling, and that it is not mission complete until all of the fuel has been removed. So that's my comment. Mahalo.
Thank you, Lima. Did you have anything to follow up on that? We're moving along in time. It's about 6:10, so maybe a couple more, and then we need to move on. Thank you.
So this is mostly for EPA as you deal with Supplement 3 and explain to the Navy why Supplement 3 is problematic. On March 7th, 2022, the Defense Secretary, I believe his name is Lloyd Abrams, said, by no later than May 31st, 2022, the Secretary of Navy and Director DLA will provide me with a plan of action with milestones to defuel the facility. Sorry, I'm going to use the word defuel. The plan of action shall require the defueling operations commence as soon as practicable after the facility is safe for defueling, and target the completion of that defueling within 12 months. What's going on here, I mean, I guess charitably we could say it was only determined to be safe in October, right when you announced go ahead and defuel. Under the Secretary of Defense's order, all the fuel needs to be gone within 12 months. So what's happening is they are wordsmithing in an Orwellian manner with Supplement 3 to define what are really defueling tasks as closing tasks, and that's really inappropriate. And they're doing that to comply with the Defense Secretary's order rather than get all the fuel out within 12 months as they are required to do. Thank you.
Oh, do you guys have a response thing? Response?
So we just received the defueling plan supplement 3. We haven't had a chance to review it, but I appreciate your feedback. As I've said before, I value this group, and and I'm taking copious notes, and look forward to hearing more comments.
Thank you very much. I have several questions. I mean, really, my questions are for Wade, and I'm very disappointed, and I'll just say it again, that he's not here, and Killian is not here, and Link is not here. So it's like everybody that we talked to last time we had this meeting is not here. All right, so last time we had this meeting, we talked a little bit about the app that had just come out, the one that Susan showed to everybody, and he called it a dashboard. And that gave the impression that we could look up, open it up any time and see the numbers rolling as the fuel was coming out. That was misleading. It is not a dashboard. It is, if anything, a mannequin of a dashboard. It's a graphic. It's a screenshot. And I think this goes to the trust issues, right, where we're picking these words, right, whether you say closure or defueling, what are we really dealing with? What is the true information? I mean, the fact is that we have to just trust that you guys are telling us what's actually happening. It's really hard for there to be the level of transparency to make up for the level of distrust that you are now operating in. And so it really behooves you to be plain language, common sense language. Use the same word for what we are doing is we are shutting down the Red Hill fuel tanks, right? And you may have different dance steps in the process of doing that, but it feels like we have to catch you in, double speak in order to get you to see that this is not what we want, right? It's, so if you're gonna do a new app, for example, don't call it a dashboard if it ain't actually a dashboard, okay? And when you do these kinds of updates, it needs to be in the context of, you hold all the cards in terms of the information. We are guessing, we're digging through these 1,000-page documents to figure out what means what. You guys, the obligation is on you to make it super duper transparent. And say much more than you need to say, and do much more than the minimum that you are required to do. Think about it I think about it like driving. There's the way the rules are written. You drive a certain speed limit. You yield at the yield sign. If there is a hazard, you stop at the yield sign. You don't just yield, right? You don't just run through, right? You have to use judgment. So I want you all to use judgment in a way that is designed to build more trust in us, our trust in you. Right now, it's not working. Like, that first day I opened up that app, I was like, I can't believe I fell for that. I was like, yep, sure, great, dashboard. We'll keep an eye on this and keep people updated. And you really have no idea what those numbers are. We have to just, you guys could have wrote any numbers in there and made a graphic out of it and posted it. I mean, it's not real. And I think what we are craving here is real information. And real back and forth dialogue. I want some commitment that you guys are going to be here for the December meeting, because the whole point is that, we get you guys to make commitments and promises to us, right? And then the only way we can really get accountability is we come back and we verify ground truth, right? And we're not able to do that at this meeting because there are 3 different suits here from last time, okay? So, sorry, it wasn't a question.
Okay, did you guys want to respond or anything?
We will practice and get better in plain English.
Melody? Oh.
Go ahead. Thank you, Chair. This is for DLA, Mr. Whiteman. Okay, so can I just have some clarification? I think like the first open house that we've attended, I believe it was Brigadier General Link, who indicated that 63 million gallons was going to go to Island Energy, and now you're telling us only 30 million gallons are going to Island Energy, and I guess 15 million is going to Pearl Harbor or Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam, and then you're mentioning Singapore, Philippines, and San Diego. How much are going to those areas? And then you've also mentioned, or someone has mentioned 64,000 for residual fuel. So where is the 60,000 going? And then the 4,000 that's in the pipes, where's that going? And then lastly, probably most importantly, is the really toxic stuff, and that's a 28,000 gallons of sludge. I pray the sludge is not going to be here. It will go to a toxic location, or where they would accept that kind of sludge. So that was my question. How much and where is everything going? Because we've got different numbers coming at us. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for the question. And since we're moving fuel regularly, what I can do is take today as a drop-off point, and I'll get back with you and give you exact numbers about how much went to each place.
Oh my God, no answer?
Well, I would tell you 30 million here and some went there, but I think that everybody, and you mentioned that you would like some very specifics, so I'd like to go back and get specifics, and I can get them to you in the next 24 hours.
I apologize, but I keep getting these kinds of open-ended answers, which we would expect. I mean, concrete answers at this point.
So I will have a cutoff as of today, and I will get you specifics about what's moved to each location.
Wow.
I do have an answer about the rest of it and then the sludge. So we have not received regulatory approval for that, but we had proposed to manage it in compliance with all regulations and take them off island.
Can I ask about the sludge?
The sludge included.
Okay. Is that past sludge as well? Because there are some illegal dumping that has been done, and there has been sludge that is found in the state quarantine location. And I have brought the EPA, Pete, over there. Pete?
Yes, Pete,
yes,
our
thank you.
Inspector Pete went with you out to the location, and I believe, I don't have the specific facts. Jamie, can I call another friend? I'm fortunate to have many friends here. Do you know the specifics of Pete's investigation? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I mean.
No, I don't have all the specifics. I know that it was a historical dumping and that we've been coordinating with our remediation group to go out and take a look at that. But yeah, it seemed like an old case, but perhaps related to military. But we're still looking into that.
Thank you.
Have you visited the site? It's percolating on a hot day.
Thanks, Melody. Okay, so we're going to move on to this safe drinking water discussion. I think that's really important we get to that before the meeting ends, and we're short on time. So I'm going to start with Lacey, since she's been pretty much taking the lead on that issue.
I have a lot of questions, so I'll try to be brief, and I would appreciate it if I could maybe get actual answers that are brief as well. This question is for the Navy, whoever wants to answer it. When the Navy says that the water is safe, what does safe mean?
Okay. There you go. Thank you.
So this is Captain Sullivan. The definition of safe for the Navy is when the water meets the drinking water quality parameters that were established by the EPA and the DOH, then it is considered safe to drink.
Okay, my follow-up question to that is, will the Navy be making any policy recommendations to lower those levels? Because what we're seeing now is that people are reporting symptoms and sheens, and I've got a stack of the more detailed results here with 50s, 60s, levels of 50s, 60s, and 70s of fuel in water. And according to your definition of safe, that's safe. But people having this testing done have had symptoms. So to me, that's not safe. So will you be making any policy recommendations?
For everyone listening, what the 60s, 70s, what is it, GPH?
Okay, sorry for everybody listening. Little background: I have a stack of test results here. I'm talking about the levels of petroleum hydrocarbons, specifically diesel. And when I said one of them here is 50.2, and it's parts per billion. So if you could elaborate on that, if you'll be making any policy recommendations, since it seems to be causing symptoms and problems, but it's safe according to that definition.
Hi, so this is Amy, and I am going to hand it. I have somebody online, Corrine Lai, who's our drinking water expert. So I'd like to have her demuted, if possible. Yes. Hi, Corrine.
Hi there. Good afternoon, folks. This is Corrine Lai of EPA Region 9's Drinking Water Program. I understand there was a question around values of TPH from most recent residential sampling of residents that have volunteered their homes for sampling as a result of symptoms that they are experiencing. Is that the question?
Yes, I asked for the definition of safe, and the Navy said as long as it was under the EALs. So what we're having here, or what is it? I'm sorry, what's your definition of safe again?
Your standards.
The Navy. I'm asking the Navy.
It's the safe drinking water standard. We don't set standards.
So what's the level? What is the level that you say is safe of parts per billion?
266.
266.
266. Okay, so that's the EAL, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So go.
That's the I'm so sorry. So go ahead.
So I'm saying it's underneath that level. So will there be any policy recommendations made, because we're having values way underneath this level, and yet people are having rashes, horrible burns, like scabs. I mean, vertigo. Somebody was hospitalized with breathing issues, and I just don't understand how this is happening and what policy recommendations will be made to fix this.
Can I just first, Corrine, before you go on, so for all of the folks who are here, you all raised this during a process call, and I immediately told you that we would look into it. Unfortunately, we had an inspector on island, and I was able to divert him to go and visit all of the residents and meet with them. He also happened to be able to observe the Navy's complaint process and how they do that. And since then, we have been having conversations with the Navy. We asked for the Navy until we had an opportunity to further investigate and evaluate this, to provide alternative water. And we have been in discussions with the Navy about premise plumbing investigations to understand if there are any other avenues. So we are working currently. Our investigation is not done, but these are the different things that we're looking at based on the understanding of the circumstances. One thing under the consent order, just so that you're aware, the consent order incorporates the long-term monitoring plan. It also requires that the Navy submit their complaint process, and we have not approved that process. And so this is an opportunity for us to see how that process is going, and we are evaluating that process as well. Thank you.
Okay,
I think she was going to answer.
okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Is she gonna-
Corinne, do you want to add anything else?
about the,
I think, as we continue our engagement with the Navy to try and really get down to the root cause of what's really happening as a result of the most recent complaints, part of our effort also is to make sure that are we talking about the distributed water that's, in the distribution system that is reaching everyone, or are we talking about singularly structures of residents and subsequently the drilling down into premise plumbing and looking at aspects of that. So as we continue to move on that evaluation with the Navy, we take this seriously and want to try and if it's not fuel, or if it is fuel, and if it's not fuel, what is actually the cause of what we're seeing?
Could you just define premise plumbing for me, because I don't know what that means, and also unexpected contaminant?
You can ask. I'll give you the mic.
So, in the grand scheme of things, premise plumbing is household plumbing, and that would include hot water heaters, cooling chambers, it could be your shower heads, it could be your faucet fixtures, it could be your piping materials, so it's within your own home. And that's the extent of what it is that we're currently engaged with the Navy on, to really explore what potentially could be causing this.
Sorry, but not sorry. What Lacey's talking about, and what I got into this afternoon, is there's many houses, so I did my search on the Safe Drinking Water website, and I took September 2023 up in today's date, because I was trying to figure out what she was talking about. She's talking about 50, 60, 70, they're all TPH. Get a map, push pins in all of the homes that are coming up, not on the complaint list. I don't care about the complaint list right now, because I'm looking just at your safe drinking water. I do care about the people that are complaining. I didn't mean it like that. But when you talk about root cause, you got to know what you're looking for. And right now, even though it's below the EALs, there's a significant number of them. It's not just onesies and twosies, okay? It's more than that. I'd be happy to, let's put the map up. I'll come over. You call out the name or the address from your site, and we start putting push pins up there and see what zones they're in, what housing areas they're in, because there's no way you're going to figure it out by just us all talking. You got to get down to the nitty-gritty. That's my deal. So yeah, I'm a statistics expert. Sorry, but I am willing to work with you, because I've been trying to work with Captain Sullivan with the air monitoring. And I think, I'm not going to try, like yesterday I said, it doesn't necessarily correlate, but what it does do is it starts making us ask the right questions. We don't know all the answers. We have got to look for the answers. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a great a suggestion. I like that idea of mapping it out. So and I don't know if Lacey, your question was answered.
I have more.
Okay, but I think, and this is kind of, I understand what Lacey was trying to say was basically are we going to be looking at the EALs, right, the environmental action levels coming down at any time soon? Is that something that's coming down? I mean, we should have zero fuel in our water.
Right.
Zero.
Not 50, zero.
Yeah, and the other thing is, I agree there should be zero fuel in the water, but I have a problem when the level that is there is so high that people are reporting symptoms, and then we all have the option to just not take an action. So, when someone reports a symptom, they get the testing done, they see that there is in fact fuel in their water, and then what? What happens? They're still having the symptoms, nothing's really done, they can't just move out of their house. What is gonna happen for these people? What do we do to keep this from happening again? So the only thing I could think of is policy change. And it sounds like nobody's trying that right now. So what else is happening? How are we gonna fix this? And can you clarify what actions are taken when there is an exceedance? And also, what options do you have to take when there is not an exceedance, but people are still reporting symptoms?
Thank you. Did anybody want to answer that? Yeah, I think that would be helpful if you can answer.
Yes, ma'am. So the long-term monitoring plan that was agreed on, I believe most people are very familiar with it. It clearly lays out step by step what is to be done in terms of when there is an exceedance. So I can point on the website, we can go to the long-term monitoring plan, but that was the plan that was approved that lays out the flushing that is done, resampling that is done, the providing bottled water, all of the actions that would be required in the event of an exceedance. I do not have all of them memorized verbatim, but it is laid out very, very specifically in the long-term monitoring plan. That was approved and developed during the IDS, the Interagency Drinking Water Systems team back in January of 2022, and signed off by the Navy, the Army, as well as regulated by the EPA and the DOH.
And how long is that in effect for?
That is a 2-year period. There are seven different periods. It goes until March of 2024 is when the completion of the long-term monitoring. We will continue to work with the regulators for what follow-on additional sampling will be required. But the actual long-term monitoring plan that is in place today goes through March of 2024.
Okay, so this is an opportunity, I think, for the military to do more than what they are minimally being asked for. I think you should commit now to as long as the Red Hill fuel system tank system is not completely shut down, cleaned out, and done. You should be and even for years after that, because we have no idea how the fuel is percolating down through the rock. So long term needs to be long term, 100 triple digits. And we should note what the regulators require in terms of clean water standards, and then maybe have higher expectations for your service people and for the civilians that live on your water lines, and achieve a zero fuel standard in your water. I can't believe I have to say that, but I feel like that's an expectation. That's not too much to ask.
Yes, ma'am. And I'm committed to working with EPA and the DOH on some type of long-term monitoring. Okay, so we are committed to being part of that.
So let me describe. Let me describe to you systematically what is wrong. And Lacey, hit me if I get some of this wrong. I'm going to try to summarize. First of all, Admiral Wade says, I think it was Admiral Wade yesterday, if anyone has a problem with their water, we're open 24/7. You just call. But that's misleading because people don't come out 24/7. there is a delay, often days, before somebody tests the water. Systematic problem number one. Systematic problem number two. People find sheens of fuel in their water. I don't care, Corrine or whoever, what the EAL is. It is absolutely unacceptable and not safe for anyone to drink water or to bathe in water with a sheen of fuel on it. That is unacceptable. No test needs to be taken. That is a test. If you see a sheen in your water, absolutely right now, unacceptable. The water is not safe. That needs to be in your standards. Number three, when you guys go to people's houses and people have a sheen in a glass or a cup, you do not test it because you have this mindset that somebody has inculcated in you incorrectly that you need to have a certain chain of custody. The term chain of custody is important if you go to court. We are not talking about going to court. We are talking about people's health. You do not need to establish chain of custody to test someone's water in their house that has a sheen in it. You need to test that water because we all know with this kind of contamination, the contamination is going to come in spikes. And so it is random and difficult to find when that pollution occurs. But if somebody has a collection in their bathtub, in their sink, in a cup, you need to test it. Number four, you guys were not testing people's hot water tanks. It sounds like there may be a start to that. It needs to happen systematically because that seems to be a problem. Do we have definitive proof of that? No. But where there's smoke, there's fire, and it certainly seems like that is the cause. Number five, EPA and the Department of Health, which is not here, has set the levels too high. They're far too high. In a case like this, jet fuel is unacceptable in our water. And so 200 whatever, too high. 60, too high. It's got to be zero. Finally, what are you guys testing for? Are you testing just for fuel, or are you testing for all the ingredients in antifreeze? You know what? You folks know or have the ability to know from your contractors what all the ingredients of the antifreeze components that are in jet fuel. While some of that is trade protective, because human health is at issue here, you can require those folks to disclose all the ingredients in the antifreeze, and you need to be testing for them. That has not been happening, and that is a huge problem because those antifreeze components are even far more dangerous and toxic than the fuel. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to follow up with that. Antifreeze is known to have a sweet smell, a sweet taste. That's why animals will, if you want to off your neighbor's dog, there you go. So sorry about that, that metaphor there, but yeah, no, definitely not nice. You're right, Susan. But I mean, it's deceiving because it's not readily, tasteful in your water. And yet it is much more toxic than JP5. Okay, so question here. Given the recent water quality complaints by residents and the fact that the Waiawa shaft is the sole water source for the Navy's water distribution system, we'd like to know if the Navy plans to provide regular water sampling data for Waiawa shaft. One question. Second question. Additionally, the 2022 long-term monitoring plan between the Navy, Hawaii, DOH, EPA, requires the Navy to establish and implement an online program for the Waiawa shaft, Waiawa shaft's entry point for distribution. The online program does not appear to exist. Are you able to provide updates about the status of this program? Thank you.
Aloha again, Captain Sullivan. So for the Waiawa shaft, that the source water is tested as part of every period, and those results are posted on the Safe Waters website. All of the results, all of the analytes are included in there.
I'm sorry, but how is it described? Is it like RHMW something?
Call it something.
Because you know all of the wells have different names. Does the shaft have?
Okay. If it is not clearly identified, I will take that as an action item to make sure that it is clearly identified. Well,
They're all RHMW0.
when you're talking to the RH, you're talking not the drinking water. Now you're talking the groundwater monitoring, and those are referred to by their specific numbers, which does start with an RH. On the drinking water side, it's referred to by addresses. I will need to verify if the Waiava shaft is clearly marked or if it has a different designation. And if it has a different designation, I will definitely take that feedback to make sure that it is updated and clarified within the website. The second part to that question, I want to make sure I understood. You were asking about the online program. Could you repeat that question? I did not get it fully.
Okay, the 2022 long-term. Oh, thank you. The 2022 long-term monitoring plan between the Navy, Hawaii DOH, and EPA requires the Navy to establish and implement an online program for the Waiava shaft entry point of distribution. And this online program does not appear to exist. And are you able to provide updates about the status of this program?
The online program I believe you'd be referring to is the Safe Waters website, where everything is posted and publicly facing and updated on a regular basis. So it is available and it is posted. That is the Safe Waters website.
At regular basis is how regular?
I'll have to verify. It's when we receive validated results. So as soon as the results are proven from the laboratory, they are entered into EDMS, the system where EDMS, I do not know what it stands for. It's a data system. So at the beginning, on the onset of the crisis, to ensure there was complete transparency and there was a lack of trust in the Navy, and we do not want the Navy to have any ability to manipulate any data that comes in. So the DOH and the EPA and the Navy all agreed to utilize this EDMS. I apologize, I don't know what the acronym it stands for, but a system where they automatically get uploaded. We all get results at the exact same time, the Navy, the DOH, the EPA, and that is the database where we pull all of our data from Safe Waters. So as soon as the information is validated by the lab, it gets sent to EDMS, and EDMS is where the website pulls that from. So it is, as soon as the information is validated, it is posted.
Is the question how often do we check Waiava?
Waiava shaft is checked in every single period. So we have tested it, 5 times. We've 6 times now in the last 2 years. But we've also tested it several additional times, including for PFAS. Let me verify that it is, if it is more frequently than that.
But I think it's tested more frequently than what's on the long-term monitoring. Sorry. I think it's tested more often than on here, but I'm not the engineer, but let us confirm that. So, but we will make that change to show it on the website too.
I've been hearing these mana'o from these families that are getting ma'i. Ka maha no wau e ho'olohi keia e pili ana ka pili kia me ka wai. Enough is enough, please. Stop the puka in all those transmissions so that pau ka ma'i. The kanaka has to be well. If the ma'i continues to the people, it then drains to the aina, which then drains further deeper into the vai, which is olaika vai. That is why we are here. A better job has to. Time is of the essence. People, children, all ages, are suffering because of the inaccurate speed. We've known this for such a long time. You guys have to do a much better job so that these families that are suffering, and we do not want it to occur anymore, whether it's in Kanaka, the Aina, and the Vai. So you have to. Testing. I'm getting kind of sick about testing, and along comes the testimonies of our families and so forth. guys got to do a much better job at doing it porno, so that we can live on as a community, as a society. In our islands, our home, this is our home. And once the water, from what I understand, is seeped down into the geology of our Aina, which then goes down into the Vai, the Puna Vai, which is far below our capability of getting reached and fixing it up, is almost impossible to do, from what I hear from professors of geology. And they're telling me once it's seeped into the Aina, into the aquifer far down below our capabilities, such as these engineers, geologists, they cannot do a darn thing about it. So you have to do a quicker job in stopping this thing going into the people, which then goes into the Aina, which then goes into the Vai. So please do it more expeditiously so that we don't have to come into these situations where Ola is threatened. Mahalo.
Okay, so we're at 6:46. We have about 45 more minutes. So, and I want to make sure we have time for the public to ask questions. But Susan, you go ahead.
Mandy next?
Oh, yeah. Okay, Mandy.
When you guys are coming out to do the rapid dipstick testing that you guys do in a couple of hours, are those results, are those tests being conducted at an EPA approved lab?
The rapid tests, they are done on site, and it is not an EPA approved lab. That is the initial, it is
Okay, thank you. That's all thank you. Thank you. The next question is, in the interim, when you guys do the long-term monitoring, the long-term testing, where it takes about 2 weeks, you come out to someone's house, they call the EOC, hey, something's wrong with my water, here's the sheen. You guys don't test that, you have them throw that out. You test the water, you send it back to the mainland for about 2 weeks, right? Lacey asked you this and it wasn't answered. What is the protocol from then? Do we just say, hey, good luck, we'll contact you, send you an email in 2 weeks? Do you show up to their home with a crate of water? Do you supply them alternate housing? Do you give them a new washer and dryer? Do you take and do their laundry? What do you do when you show up to someone's house and you test their water and you send it away for 2 weeks? What are those residents being told to do? What's your guidance to them?
Our first guidance is depending on once we get there, we offer them bottled water, if that's what's required. Sometimes the families do want bottled water while they're waiting for their long-term test, and some families don't, depending on if the initial test, what the initial test shows. But we are flexible with that. I'm constantly reviewing our processes on that, open to suggestions on how we could do things better. Recently, we've actually had the installation leadership.
Do you tell them not to drink their water, sir? Is your guidance, do not drink the water that has a sheen on it and that's giving your children these horrific rashes? Don't drink the water until we can assure you that your water is safe. And here's an alternate water source, or here's a hotel room. What are you doing to make sure that that family is absolutely safe? Or are you just sending your most junior people out to test and they don't have any guidance for these families? Because that is what's happening, sir. And so if you're looking for suggestions, don't drink your water until we can give you 100% certainty. Or why not replace the water heaters?
Okay, thank you. We'll take that under consideration, and I'm constantly looking forward to make our process better and tighter and more efficient to the family members. So, and I'll definitely look into that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Major.
Thank you, sir. My next question is this: Mauna Lua Shopping Center, Pearl Harbor Visitor Center, Restaurant 604, all of these businesses that are off base, are they part of your long-term monitoring? What are you doing for the people who work at these businesses who are having symptoms? Are they part of the long-term monitoring? Again, Mauna Lua Shopping Center, the Pearl Harbor Visitor Center. There's several of these places that are on the Navy drinking water system that are not on base, and we haven't seen test results for them. So why are they not being tested? And what's the communication like with the folks, the civilians who work at those facilities, those businesses?
I will have to verify those exact addresses. The entire distribution system is included in the long-term monitoring. So I will verify some of those addresses. I do know for sure the Monte Lewis Shopping Center has been tested. I know that the dental facility there has been tested. I have seen those results. So I know that testing is occurring. I do not know the number of tests that have occurred, but they are part of the Joint Base Pearl Harbor System distribution system, and therefore they are part of the long-term monitoring program.
Thank you. How can you explain, or please explain to me or the group, how EAL levels are higher now than they were back in March after you guys flushed? I'll give you an example. My children went to the Fort Island CDC. So even though I'm off island, I monitor that pretty regularly. And in March, 17 March 2022, it was 58.1 parts per billion. 1 year later, on the 14th of February 2023, 76.6 parts per billion. If we're not using the well, and if the water is absolutely safe, and it's been flushed 1 million times over, and you guys wasted water and flushed water at fire hydrants and flooded streets and everything else, tell me how it's possible that the EA levels continue to rise, how they're higher today than they potentially were last year. Make that make sense to me.
Mandy, this is Amy Miller, and I'm going to ask Corrine, but I think we've talked about the EALs, and I know that you're looking forward to a conversation with Department of Health, who are the ones that set those levels.
Amy, we have talked about it. We've talked about it. But the group here, this is a public meeting.
Right.
And I don't like to have just internal discussion. So Corrine has not been able to explain that to the public. And the Navy clearly doesn't know. So could someone please tell the public that, how that's possible?
Corrine, would you just give some explanation around EALs, please?
Why they've gone up? Do you mean the level of TPA?
EALs are, that's really, and Mandy, I haven't been able to explain it, probably because EALs doesn't come from the drinking water world, which is what I'm most familiar with. We don't use EALs for drinking water. We use NCLs for the most part that are very prescriptive. The EALs come, and those were developed by, the Department of Health for this particular incident specific for TPH. And so subsequently, my hope, and I think this is being planned, is that the CRI members are going to have an opportunity to engage with the Department of Health over their EALs and the establishment of the TPH value for EAL values. I don't have an explanation, Mandy, for why there was an increase in TPH levels from March of 2022 to February of 2023. I haven't analyzed that data that closely to see where there might be increases for individuals.
Who is analyzing that data? We're talking about what people are drinking. Who's in charge of it? They've got all these people in this task force. Who is analyzing the data of the water that people are drinking and bathing their children in? Who's analyzing it then? If you're not green, who is?
So we are monitoring it, and of course, we've set under LTM the incident-specific parameter threshold of 266. Yes, we're looking at those lower levels. The method detection limit for TPH, O, D, and G is at 50. So that's how very, very low and precise it gets down to the technology-based limit. So at those lower levels, we're looking at kind of obviously big changes and swings. And again, I don't want to discount the fact that it's a 58 is a detection of TPH in water, a 76 is a detection. When I'm looking at kind of gross numbers and all these samples, we're comparing it to the 266. But that certainly doesn't discount the fact that it's present. So I know DOH is probably spending more time evaluating that data as well as the Navy counterparts.
Thank you. I have two more questions. My issue with continuity and this change and command that we're doing, and the public continues to say about the military, and I'm one of them, right? I am in the service, for those who don't know, right? And we know that we move, right? Chains of command, we move out every 2 to 3 years, right? That's the issue that the public has with the Red Hill issue. More new people come in. There's new people sitting at that table right now who can't just spit off answers to us like we can, right? Because we've been tracking this. The family's been tracking this for 2 years. So it's frustrating, and Amy's probably one of the people I like most sitting at that table right now, right? But it's frustrating that Amy in the EPA is just now looking at rashes when there were 2 CDC ATSDR surveys that were conducted, right? Within the first year, where people were saying they were having rashes. We know that the Navy monitors our Facebook groups. Trust me, we know, right? You see the rashes. You know that they're there. We're on every single one of your town halls posting pictures that you then delete. There was an exposure report that came out, exposure assessment report that came out in June of 2021, where Dr. Brewer talked about the hot water heaters. And he used a gentleman, for example, about how corrosive his hot water heater was, probably due to the jet fuel. Once it was replaced, his rashes went away. That was 5 months ago. So when we talk about how we have this sense of urgency, there's not a sense of urgency when it comes to people, okay? Like, you guys are tracking. There are people who are moving to Hawaii right now. Their babies have the same rashes that my 13-month-old did 2 years ago. They haven't been on that drinking water system for 2 years. They just moved in, and they have the same skin rashes. And all of you guys raised your hand last night. Excuse me, didn't raise your hand last night because none of you bathe in cold water. Let's apply some common sense. We don't bathe our children in cold water. Stop turning a blind eye to people. Stop acting like this is the first time that you're being made aware that people have skin rashes. My last question is for Carnegie. Please, sir, as a representative of the Navy, I'd like for you to explain to the group hazardous duty pay. I have personally asked for hazardous duty pay as a human resources officer in the military for the folks who did the flushing operations, denied. I asked Admiral Reid multiple times. I've asked Congress. I've asked you all multiple times for the folks who right now are in Task Force Red Hill and handling toxic fuels in accordance with DoD regulations, denied. Admiral Wade said last night not a single person on task force is. Not a single person is getting $150 a month, right? So then, like I passed that question now to Admiral Barnett. Are you going to fight for your people to get hazardous duty pay? I'd like to highlight that when COVID was going on, people in the 82nd Airborne, where I was a couple of years ago, I got $150 every single month for jumping once a quarter, right? When COVID was happening, you know what the DoD did? The DoD made an exception. There was an exception to policy. When those people couldn't jump out of airplanes or when our aviators couldn't fly, they were still getting $150 a month, and they weren't doing their job. They weren't jumping out of airplanes because of COVID. You've got hundreds of service members doing their job, doing your job, cleaning up your mess. Toxic fuel, handling of toxic fuels is defined in the Department of Defense regulation. And I would ask someone far ranking than me to fight for your service members who are being exposed to this toxic stuff, because you know what? You don't have a medical surveillance program for them. You're not paying them for the work that they're doing. You're not medically taking care of them. We are 2 years down the line, and I'm still talking about paying someone $150 a month. You've got money sent overseas. You're spending money on stupid videos that you just made, like in man hours, because you can't pay people $150 a month for exposing them to this toxic stuff. I'd ask one officer up there to have the intestinal fortitude to go speak to the Secretary of Defense about this. This is ridiculous. That's all. Thank you.
Major Fight, I hear you. I understand your concern. I will make sure that I pass this on to DC, okay? I understand your concern, and I will make sure I pass that. I took this from Karnick because that's really not in his, and it's not really in my lane, but I hear you. And I'm going to take responsibility for making sure that I pass that up with the same zeal and voice that you have. So thank you, and thank you on behalf of all of our military members and their families.
I'll make this quick. Is this on?
Yeah, so we're at 7 o'clock, and we still haven't gotten to public.
Can I make it really
That, yeah.
quick? I need a microphone that works. I need a microphone that works. Okay. All right. It just seems like we're all here and nobody knows what to do. Let me give you a real life example that I experienced and what happened to help people, all right? I was in Southern California when the biggest natural well blowout happened in the hills behind my house. So similar to this, there was testing, AQMD would come out, and the wind would change, and so they wouldn't get a positive test, right? Similar to these water samples where you go, and by the time you get there, the water's been flushed away. The Department of Health did a heat map. You know what that is, right? A heat map to show where all of these health incidents were. There were serious health incidents, and they looked at that and they said, even though we can't correlate it right now to AQMD because the wind changes, we're going to evacuate those people. And they did. You don't need to wait for these tests to be below some arbitrary level. You can move people, Navy, you can move people right now if they have medical issues. You don't have to wait till you have all whatever evidence. And it just seems to me you're very handicapped by your rigid rules. That's it.
That's a great way to end it. We have all these regulations, but we don't, you can have concern for people without waiting for the
Yes, ma'am.
the smoking gun kind of thing. So we're gonna move on. I don't know if we wanna continue with the air monitor. No.
Let's give the public.
Okay, yeah. So I just wanted to make sure we get to the water issues, but we will now move on to the public part. So if anybody here present or anybody on the Zoom has a question, we have a few minutes for that now, and Madison will be controlling the mic.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Aloha mai kako. I was supposed to say two things, but sorry, I got a little bit triggered and I had to go take a deep breath. Some of you know that 8 years we have lived on the Pearl City Peninsula, Navy housing, after being off island for 10 years due to Navy life. And because of all the volunteers that I was taught in the Navy wife life to do and I've done it for the Pearl City Peninsula, I just want to say that I've been continuing that. And I know I have told the Navy that I don't like to disturb my neighbors, which I don't, but they still come to me. And there are many residents in our Pearl City Peninsula who are afraid. They're either shy, afraid for their husband's military career, whether they're Army or Navy. But Heolani and I witnessed a family that just moved to the islands. They're fairly young Navy family, 20 years younger than me. And they just moved here 2 months ago. And her daughter, who is so cute, so upbeat, has been breaking out in hives, what my son had. And we didn't know what it was, but it took a tripler specialist in 2019 to tell oblivious me, because I always loved our Navy. I loved everything. I just believed everything, right? I didn't know what they were talking about. But he said, your son doesn't have allergies, ma'am. He debunked everything from pesticides to bug bites to product sensitivity to everything. And I told him, you make sure you put that in his medical records. because I don't know what you're talking about, where you're trying to go at with this. He looked at his flask and he says, Mom, you're a smart woman, I can tell. What does your son drink? And I said, I raised him on tap water. That's how my mom raised me. And we always had filters on our sink. So what I'm trying to say here is, he said it's an environmental toxin and to test. I'm like, but we're on a different water source. I didn't understand it in 2019. Now I do. What I want to say here is, I have to tell these families what I gone through. And I'm so scared to tell them how we're living at home. Because it's more than just this one family. There's multiple of them that don't want to come forward. And they always expect me to be the voice. But what I'm trying to say here is, I don't know how to tell them that we are 99.9% not touching our tap water. And we're just being proactive and smart. We don't even want to touch military pipes. And I don't want to say that to our military. You know, I don't want to broadcast that out loud to disrespect you all, you know? But we're not. And that's why we're not getting sick like all these families. So what I'm trying to say here is, that's why I asked for the landlords for every of our military housing branches to please come to these events. I know they're not jurisdiction to your Navy lines, but I am sick and tired of hearing landlord after landlord say, you know, it's like, even a resident said last year, and a senior leadership from Navy Region Hawaii was there at our town hall in Pearl City Peninsula, took down on his small little notepad, and this wife said she believes her husband died from the tap water. She said that last year. So anyways, I'm sorry. I just feel sorry for these residents, and it breaks my heart, and I believe them. And even a young Navy family who are about to PCS soon. She puts her baby in the bath, no soap, already breaking out in hives. I had that too. So anyways, what I'm trying to also ask here, request, is some type of emergency supplement where, just like how Hailani, the Oahu Water Protectors, and the Shutdown Red Hill Coalition Aid have been doing month after month for a little over a year. And so they only provided it for Kapalina Beach homes every month. This is out of the public's money, donations, monetary donations. And then I would come in and they would provide me water to give to our residents, Pearl City Peninsula, and I've done that 4 times. So I pretty much can get less than 100 residents to come out and get water. They really want free water. They really want the water. They're scared to live hardcore like me. I've done it for 2 years by next month, not using the tap water. So what I'm asking is, we don't have to do every single day, because I understand the manpower and the strain of that. Depends on your guys' budget, the DOD budget. But please, because these issues are going on, just like how I didn't go. Others had to go to the hotels, and that's why they did the free drinking water, right? This time now, we don't know what's going on, right? You guys don't know what's going on, but I could just estimate and guess that it is. It is what it is. So we need at least weekly, maybe every Aloha Friday, give out free water to these families, or monthly if the budget goes. I've been asking this. I asked this from Captain Eric Spitzer, didn't hear nothing. I even begged our entire legislatures in December 2021, and I begged them again in 2022. Please don't stop this water. I even told all your chief mess and the leaderships and everything, please don't stop this free water distribution last year. Sorry, sir. There's so much I have to say to you, but as for the EAL and what is that? What is it called? The NCL. I rather take that up to Department of Health. I am very pissed that they have been pretty much two-faced to our people of Hawaii. And that is like, they're about to break bread with their own ohana on the Thanksgiving table and soon to be Christmas table. How can they look at their own keiki to elders and say, hey, you know, I mean, we've been raising all these levels like a stock market, you know, and controlling it. And that's why all these industries, corporates and lobbyists and probably the tourism industry, God, I can go on. You know, there's corruption. I've been telling our military community for years, as long as I've been a Navy wife. They ask me, why is Hawaii so crappy to live in? Why is it so like unfair to all you people from Hawaii and all that? And I said, because of corruption. There's hidden agendas. Yeah.
Are you almost done?
I'm done.
Okay,
Sorry.
thanks, Momi. We love you. Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Did anybody want to respond to that?
Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, I hear you. We've talked before. I'm here for you to talk to, and I'm going to do what I can. I'll tell you that the lens that I look through things through, that we look through things through. I know you see these uniforms, but we're not heartless. Okay, and I don't want folks to think that. 3 weeks ago, I was blessed with a grandson, and I went to visit that grandson. And I worry about everything with him. I don't see him a lot. My wife is still there. I don't know if she's coming back. But she sends me pictures, and every time I look at him, how's he doing? What's going on? I haven't walked the walk that a lot of folks here have walked, but I hear you, okay? And I feel you. And I just don't want you to think that these, you know, just because we're wearing these uniforms, that we're not heartless, that we don't have kids, that we don't think this, that we don't lose sleep. I'm not trying to marginalize and say that we've lost as much sleep or we've been through what everybody's been through here. And that's one thing, that's why I want to stress. Admiral Killian, we were in the same meeting and we got pulled out of, and I said, well, one of us needs to go and represent. So I came here. You have our commitment that we're going to be part of this process, part of trying to fix what's broken. But, you know, we've talked, and you've met my wife, Naima. You know, and when I come home, I get ideas too, and I get direction and guidance too on how to be a better, you know, how to be a better officer, how to be a better husband, how to be a better, you know, what are you thinking about? She goes, well, let's think about this. Now, she's a psychologist by trade, whole other story, but she keeps me honest. So we do this at work, but we take it home too, and we take it serious. So just because, you know, I don't want it to seem like it's disrespectful because we're taking notes, but we've got some homework to do, and we owe some answers back. So we can get, you know, on speed and then fix this process and fix what's broken.
Okay. Sure.
Hello, my name is Rochelle. Oh, are you going to talk, Amy? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Just
one response.
10 seconds. I just want to remind you that if people are not feeling comfortable in reporting to the Navy, they can also report to EPA and Department of Health. I take it very seriously, and we are, you know, I will respond as quickly as we can. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next question from the audience, and then we'll go on Zoom.
For real this time? I'm Rochelle. I was one of the residents that called in about a sheen and a film on our water. I welcomed the EPA, the DOH out into our home. I said, test all you want. I'm here, you know, forever. I live here, so come and go as often as you please. Of those tests, we did have, you know, detects. And we did start to show symptoms for the first time in 2 years. We had a resurgence of symptoms. We did tell this to the EPA, and as you know, Amy pointed out, they're still looking into it. Well, we're still living in it. So while you're looking into it, we're bathing our children in it. It's not good enough. It's not good enough because we're 2 years past when the initial spill happened, and we're looking into it. The EPA says the DOH is the one that sets the limits. The Navy and the DOH say that those limits were approved by the EPA. So you guys need to stop passing the buck. We want answers. We want the limits lowered. Thank you.
Any response for that? Any answers for that?
Thank you for coming tonight, and I do hear you, and we are trying to look at other sources beyond just sampling. It's taking different approaches to figure out where this is coming from. I hear you, and I know that this is an urgent matter, and I take drinking water very seriously. Please, if there are other things that are happening and coming up, I do want to know. Our discussions with the Navy, we have been trying to work as rapidly as possible at looking at other things to investigate within homes, and also looking at the system itself. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. And we have Jamie Simic on Zoom. Thank you, Jamie.
Hi, aloha, everybody. Aloha, Admiral Barnett. I haven't officially gotten to speak with you. Congratulations on the new baby. I do have a question for you. If your grandson came out to visit, would you feed him a bottle of formula with the tap water? That's my first question. Because I did for many years. For many years. And I still get phone calls. Thank you, Amy, for taking my emails and keeping the families private that have reached out with their babies having the same rashes that my children had years ago. You gave the same speeches of 2 years of long-term monitoring. We'll get the results back to you. The EALs then were 50 parts per billion. People are testing at 52 and getting sick. I've asked these questions from the beginning. I know everybody wants the hot water heaters replaced, but what's the point when the pipes are contaminated? The fuel spills have been happening for how long? Ones that you haven't even told us about. There's plumes. It's not just one plume. There's multiple. When are you finally going to just be honest and level up so people stop getting sick? Answer the questions honestly. That's all we're asking for. And for medical care so everybody can stop getting sick. I recently had a family reach out to me asking if the water was clear. They called the same command that my soon-to-be ex-husband worked at. They told him there was no issues with the water. That just happened to be the same week, confirming that people are reporting symptoms. When are you going to tell the truth? And they have children that could already have been pre-exposed. So they're going to come back and be doubly exposed? Move into the same military housing? When are you going to do the right thing? Because my daughter, those rashes come back. They don't go away when you leave the island. My son has staph and impetigo on his ear that he had go up his nose August of 2021. He's had it on his ear since June. But there's still the flags and the advisories that nobody will change. That stops the care. When are you really going to do the right thing? Enough of the dog and pony show. Level up and protect your people. Should not be the spouses and the affected families coming forward. People are terrified to come forward because they've seen what's happened. They've seen the attacks on like myself that has happened, and I took it on the chin. I knew what was going to happen. And I took it on the chin. I had more courage than the men sitting at that table. And they keep saying that they're doing the right thing. And I'll continue to have the courage because you didn't give my children a chance. So are you going to have your grandson come out and take that chance away from him like they took away from my children? And all of the other children that are living on the island and that are born on the island? It's not hard to trace back where my children were exposed and why the levels are still high in their bodies and what they have. They were born there, and you were tracking back then. You've been tracking all along. Just give us the real results, lower the EALs, and give people medical care and do the right thing. That's all. I'll say the same thing over and over as long as I have breath in my lungs and until you do the right thing, because that fuel's been leaking into the mountain for years because you didn't maintain it appropriately. I have video from June of 2022. I testified at the Board of Water Supply, offered it up, of it all the way down to Moalili. Local family didn't want to come forward. They wanted to stay anonymous, but they still shared the video. Now you're saying you're testing with cold water when you know the heat activates it? You're putting on aerators so you can separate and disperse the contamination? And it's not as easily visible? Controlling the AC units? Instead of investing in all that, just do the right thing. For those that are sick, because I told you back in 2021, the first town hall, there's going to be thousands coming behind me if you don't change course. And here we sit, having the same conversations with the same rhetoric and more Exhibit A's. More. If you did the right thing from the beginning, my daughter wouldn't have lost 4 teeth and then 4 caps on the island. You know what you did to her self-confidence with that? And she just kept brushing more and more and more and more. How many other families are going through that same narrative right now? And they go to the doctor asking for help and they get dismissed. Do you know how you're breaking people? Not just physically, but spiritually, emotionally, and financially? While you guys sit there? Imagine your grandson and your daughter going through this and you have no recourse to help them. How would that break you? Because that's what you're doing to the service members with their families as well. It's on your hands. You guys all have the choice to do the right thing. Stop playing with words and actually fix what you broke. That's when you take true accountability. Admitting the problem and then taking action to fix it, and I've yet to see it. I do appreciate you guys putting in effort with town halls, but at least put out accurate information if you're gonna do that, because you lied for years. You lied to my family for years. My records go way back. You lied to us for years. Stop lying and do the right thing. That's all.
Thank you, Jamie, for that testimony.
Answer the question about his grandson.
Oh, I'll just, if you want to answer their questions, Sarah.
Okay, the answer is yes.
You would give your grandson if it had 50 parts per million. Jet fuel.
No, if my water test came back as you said, I'm sorry, say again, 50?
Let's say it's 50, jet fuel in the water.
Oh, jet fuel in the water? I would, if my grandson came here and he took a bath in the water that I have right now, and he wasn't well, say he had a rash, I would immediately take him to the doctor.
I'm asking you if you knew there was 50 parts per million, would you give him that water in his formula?
If it was reported safe by my drinking water source, by my EPA teammates and DOH, I would follow their. Now,
Interesting.
That's not a good idea.
now if.
What would you want to say?
Now that's the other thing. That would be a family decision. I would talk with my wife. What I want to stress is this. I'm not here to break people. I'm here to fix things.
Yet you would not, if your wife said no, you would not.
That would be a discussion that we would, we would take the option of the bottled water. I would work the process. I would call the EOC, and I would work it that way. But what I want to stress is that we are here, I am here to fix, not to break. That's why I'm here right now talking to each and every one of you. My command philosophy, the first day when I got here, what's the first thing that I say? It's do the right thing. And that's what I'm trying to do, is to do the right thing. Second thing is be loyal. Third thing is holistic well-being. And I'm trying to live by that every day. These are hard, complex problems, I understand, but I'm here to be part of the solution and to work with my teammates on this. And I'm going to listen to each and every one of you.
Thank you for your honesty. Who else? Chris Anton is online, and we will let her speak. Thank you.
Hi, I'm just going to go, it might have been covered before, but I'm wondering what the notification system has been changed since the spill of 2021. And I'm wondering what has changed now when you do see spikes. And I have seen some of the data results that have been posted. Either it's a well monitoring that's gone over the 400 or 500 parts per billion, but I'm simply wondering, when an issue occurs, what has happened on the notification system to all users? And I'm talking the whole user system. Is it just media that you utilize where people have to know that it's on TV? Or they have to go to a DOH website and a neighbor has to tell them it's on the website? Because when the water was cleared, all of a sudden these billboards went up, things when you drove into your neighborhoods that were posted everywhere, and so everybody knew. Because not everybody in those households is military, so there's no mass military email that ever gets to everybody. A lot of civilian housing for Capilina, as you're aware. So it's really kind of hit or miss on who's going to get to know the knowledge. So I'm wondering, are there phone calls now that go out to the home? Are there plus emails? Plus, from you're requiring those landlord companies to contact at least most of the people they know in the household that would have the email? And then is there different languages being presented on maybe boards as there's entry into those neighborhoods? There could be. And I'm wondering if that's been changed. Then what's the protocol? What's the process now? Or is it exactly the same as it was 2 years ago?
My question is this in response to, say, if there was the unlikely event, there was a spill incident? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. If there's a spill
If there's any needing of warning of the water, please don't drink your water through the evening while we investigate an issue. Just what would the process be?
Right. Well,
for that notification to all users?
Right. Well, we would utilize the Oahu public notification system, and that's a 3-tiered system. It's activated by the Department of Emergency Management, or HIEMA, and it's the 3 things. It's the emergency alert system, which is kind of like what you see at the bottom of your TV screen or on your radio, and then the second one is a outdoor warning sirens, which we're kind of familiar with those. And those. There it is. Okay, and so the outdoor warning system, we're familiar with those alarms. Those kind of tell you to go listen to your, go to your TV, turn on your radio. But the third. But the third and probably the best one is the wireless phone system, where we can take it and we can, and I've already reached out to the Department of Emergency Management and HIEMA, walk them through this process. And what we would do is they could focus on certain parts of the island where the water system would be impacted, and that's how that message would get out, in addition to the different ways that we do have on board the installation for our installation water users. But the main one would be that cell phone coverage that we can get out.
Okay,
Do they have to have the app, or it would just be like a basic emergency notification through the cell phone, like that was tested a few weeks ago nationally?
That's exactly right, ma'am. It would be that. It would be that way. That where you don't have to have an app or anything.
Thank you. Are you guys okay with going a little over time? Just 2 more questions. Is that okay? Okay, so we have Tara Sutton in the audience.
I have one quick question and then just a couple statements. The first question is to the military, but also I would like it if, like, the CRI also would take into consideration if it's something that you guys want to follow up on. But as a military community member, Navy, what do you guys think about when I learned about the amount of water that is being wasted? Why don't you put us on a budget? And, as a community member that's part of Navy housing, I live on Hickam, why aren't there advisories for us? Why are the sprinklers just going whenever? Why are the golf courses being, why aren't we on some sort of a budget? So I won't elaborate. I'm sure you can figure that out. So that's my question, and I'll let you respond, and then I'll just make my statements after.
Okay, I think I got one now. I don't have the exact numbers, but we have been on a budget restriction, on a water conservation. But I will tell you this: even as I'm driving around base and I find things, say like a broken sprinkler head or other things, I'm calling up the public works folks and like, hey, there's a broken sprinkler head here, and are you on the Hickam side? Okay. Matter of fact, yesterday when I was driving off base, I saw something and I called the base CO himself. What we've done, and I don't know if it's reached as large of an audience as I would like, is where someone, if they see a leak, call a leak, so we can do those types of things. But there are things that, we're running fast at this, but we need to run a little bit faster and make sure that we are keeping that that rhythm up of making sure that we're being good stewards of the water. So I will I'll make sure that I keep pressing that, but we have been hammering on that.
I would like to recommend like a single mom budget for the water.
I got you.
Some a little bit tighter, because I think that we're a little extravagant as a community.
Okay, yes, thank you.
Okay. And then my statements, I don't need responses to these, but I'm trained as an anthropologist. That's my background. And I just want to make a comment, just friendly gesture. The military has used anthropologists for decades as a tool in order to learn how to make entry into several countries. And I think it's something that hasn't really been thought of, because this is an English-speaking culture that you're familiar with, right? But when I traveled overseas and went to England, I was shocked at how many words I got wrong and how many whoopses and times I blushed, right? Because I didn't realize that the culture and the language was so foreign in England. And I would really advise that you guys take a chance at realizing that you come from a different culture and you speak a different language. And don't take for granted that just because you're working within a community that you live amongst, that you speak the same language and that you work amongst the same culture.
Yes.
And so when people are asking you to use different acronyms or use the same, change the words or use consistent words, I know that all you're doing is what you're familiar with doing, and it may be frustrating that you're being asked to step outside of your comfort zone as a military group. But as a military spouse, my husband comes home and starts rattling off about his day, and I'm like, okay, and what was that? And then he has to dumb it down and speak to me in English so that I can understand what he just said. do that with us and do that at this table.
Yes.
Because how you speak to these guys who we voted in, that's you speaking to us. And your frustration with them is actually your frustration with us. And I want you to really take that to heart. And these are your anthropologists. And I really want you to just take a moment later to really let that sink in, because this is your training ground to learn how to enter our community. And I think that's really important.
Can I respond real quick? I got goosebumps hearing you say that, okay? I did. And you're exactly right. You're exactly right.
The next person? Who's the next one in the audience?
Hi. Hello. I have a question directed to the Navy and the facility closure. Recently, part of your community engagement was to do a study. I think it was to do with repurposing studies. I understand there was 5,000 that was sent out to the Red Hill area, and only 372 was returned back with comments. Then you emailed about 1,700, and only about 700 were turned back. However, there's over 1 million people on this island, so it's not just this water issue. It's not just the Red Hill neighbors, but it includes all of us that live in Honolulu and different areas. The entire island should have been surveyed. So I was wondering if you intend to redo the survey with Nakapuna that's going to encompass the entire island of Oahu, and not just looking at 1,143 to make your decisions.
Thank you. I will reach back out to Nakapuna, and we will see something. I thought that also yesterday at the FTAC when that came up. So and I know Doctor, and she brought up a couple of good points there. So we're just talking about that. So we'll go back and reach back into that process.
As a quick follow-up, this is one of those places where we need to work on the transition. So with the previous group of suits that were here, they said that the CRI would be able to provide, would be involved in the decision-making about how the tanks would be reused. And so I want to get commitments from you all who are going to be here for the next however long you're here, that that's going to happen.
We need everybody's voices. Do you think we know what the beneficial non-fuel reuse should be? We have no idea right now. How are we going to know without hearing all of you? Like if someone asked me to do that, I would say I can't do that. So your voices, everybody's voices. And by the way, it's not just one process either. There are so many processes. This one is a different thing. It's not an environmental response. It's a facility thing. There are so many different opportunities that are going to come because these are really complicated. But because of the complication, the good news is that then there's lots of bites at that apple. So let's do that together and figure out what is the best thing to do here that's most beneficial for the community.
Thank you. And one more question? Okay, go ahead, Becca. This will be the very last.
All right. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. My name is Rebecca Garrison, and I'm a community organizer with HAPA and the Sierra Club of Hawaii. I have two questions tonight. And actually, first I want to start by thanking the members of the community CRI initiative for all of your hours and your dedication to the community. Really appreciate you folks. I would like to focus my questions on the transition between Joint Task Force Red Hill and the Navy. So these questions are directed at, I guess Barnett and the Rep Wade sent. It seems as if Joint Task Force Red Hill is co-opting so-called community engagement, and public outreach to claim a win, when in reality, you're literally just doing the basics of your job. Let us not forget it is everyday people, not the military, who will one day claim a win in the future when Kapukaki is remediated and restored to the pristine condition the military stole it in. This day will not be in January of 2024 or February or March of 2024. So here are my two questions. One, who decides when everything is fine? Is it Joint Task Force Red Hill? Is it the Navy? Is it the CRI? Are we gonna have a vote on Oahu? Are we gonna have an archipelagic vote? That's my first question. Question number two, yesterday at FTAC, it was stated that 15, maybe 20 people from the Joint Task Force Red Hill will transition to the Navy team for closure, while the remaining 260 or so others will be new personnel. This is alarming for many reasons, but here's my question. Will this new crew have heard the concerns and cries of the community, like Joint Task Force Red Hill? I mean, like, literally from the mouths of impacted families and Kanaka Maoli. Not, a whitewashed version for military officials or a 10-minute video we all are sent to watch. Thank you.
So if I could, clarify, I am not the rep from the JTF, okay? I am the deputy commander for Admiral Barnett for closure. I'm not part of the JTF. With regards to the question about the transitioning personnel, so a couple things, right? The JTF is predominantly a uniform-wearing organization, so there's going to be rotations, right? One of the things when we looked at the design of the Navy Closure Task Force was it is heavily permanent civilian hired, right, to avoid the transit natures that for those of us wearing the uniform, every 2 to 3 years we're moving, right? We recognize that, and that's why the design is heavily permanent civilian hires, with some military in there, about, again, 30 or so. And so I just want to, clarify that. And I've forgotten the third part of your question. I apologize.
Who decides when everything is fine?
Who decides?
I was going to say, I think the question was who decides, and the answer is the regulatory agencies. The Navy will, EPA and the Department of Health. We are not done until they say we're done.
So I think we're at the end of our meeting, and I want to thank everybody. I want to thank everybody for coming and for attending online and in person, and for making the time to talk about this very important topic, which is really about the future of this island. And did anybody want to make some closing statements? Okay, so I'll leave the closing statement to Susan. Mahalo.
Again, thank you for everybody who came out and for meeting with us and talking with us. I did want to remind everyone that we still have 101 outstanding questions from the CRI, most of which were from October 5th, so they've been outstanding for, a month and a half. And we have asked for those to be in writing, and I understand somebody in Washington, D.C. is working on those. But again, part of our function was to listen to the community, see what questions they have, and come up with questions ourselves after we dig into a lot of the data that we have.
As one of the somebodies from Washington, D.C. I was hoping we were done with it yesterday, and then I was hoping we were done. I mean, we are, turning that around, and I was hoping to share it with you today, and I was not able to do that before I came here. But we have answers, and after this meeting, I will ask Steve Herf, who's been contacting with you all, to distribute that.
So we have all the answers in writing, is that what you're saying?
There's some questions that are either overcome or they were more like statements and things like that. But the ones that are questions, so yeah.
You're saying the vast majority.
Yes.
Thank you. thank you for allowing me the opportunity to show up late. I'm usually on time for things like this, but, well, I'm always on time. But thank you for the opportunity. And what I want to say is that it doesn't, I'm not short-sighted on the trust issue. And like my mother told me, it's easy to lose and hard to gain. So, and my commitment to each and every one of you is through action and deed. That's what I'm going to be running for. I'm running hard for action and deed, along with my staff. I will make it a point to get to these as much as I can. That's why I wanted you to see his face also, so we're interchangeable, but I will be in the process. If I'm off doing stuff, I will make sure to be, just because I'm not here doesn't mean I'm not going to be here. And that's what I'm saying. So I'm always reachable. And thank you for your patience as we work through this process with the EPA to get this to where we're trying to go. But thank you.
And we won't accept any more videos from Admiral Wade. He has to be here in person. We're not playing it if he sends one. So we made it here. We're all working people. We're the ones drinking the water. He should be here. Thank you. Mahalo, everybody. Yeah, do you want to say?
We are looking at, for the next meeting, we're looking at the week of December 11th. We don't have all the details worked out yet, but if people want to pencil in that week, we'll keep an eye out. Thank you.
I don't have business cards. I start between morning, so I do what she said.